Politics. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers. We've got another terrific show for you, another great candidate for you to get to know. And like I say, you've got to vet these people, agree with them, you don't agree with them, see where you're standing. But the most important thing is get up off the couch. You got to get out and vote. That's the whole bottom line. For all your regulars, and I know there's a lot of them out there, please do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe to the show. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Anyway, let me move on and tell you a little bit about our guest today, Vinny Spotelson. Vinny is the Democratic candidate running for Nevada Assembly District 41. Previously, he worked as the organizing director for the Western Clean Energy Campaign from 2012 until 2013. Vinny also served as the Southern Nevada lands manager for Senator Harry Reid from 2013 to 2015, which probably was a great experience working for Harry Reid.
Absolutely. We were pushing renewable energy, and thank you so much for having me, Dennis.
Sure,
this
pleasure.
is great to be here. But we were building renewable energy. We were protecting our public lands. We were still, part of my portfolio was fighting Yucca Mountain. We hosted 2 Nevada, National Clean Energy Summits while I was there, including one where President Obama came and spoke about what we were doing on the clean energy and
Wow.
to stop climate change. So it was a wonderful experience.
What was your background leading up to that? I mean, how did you get involved in that?
Yeah.
Was it through school or what happened?
Well, I'd always worked on political issues. I worked my first Senate campaign in 2006. I worked for Jack Carter, the son of President Jimmy Carter, when we got our butts kicked by John Ensign in that year. And so working there, and then I got more interested in the environment because right after I graduated college, I didn't ever do a study abroad in college, but what I did do was I went to India for one of those like volunteer tourism type of trips.
Cool.
So I spent a couple months in India. I had to pay the money providing volunteer labor for a wildlife, an environmental organization. But the coolest thing they did was wildlife rehabilitation relocation. So they had, if you had a snake or if you had like a monitor lizard or some sort of animal at your school or at your home, you could call this organization. They'd come pick it up and take it out and put it back into nature or on a farm or something like that. And I'll just tell you a quick story about that because, and the organization had dealt with all kinds of things. Like before I got there, they tranquilized a jaguar in somebody's bathroom or a leopard. And so, but they also trained, part of the appeal was like, we'll train you on kind of animal handling.
Oh my goodness.
So finally, in my 4th week there, I caught a cobra at a construction site under the guide of my mentor and everything, and we relocated it. We took it out into the jungle and let it go. So that got me really interested in the environment because they were also dealing with pollution and clean water. I mean, the environmental problems in India are huge and enormous.
I bet they are.
And so when I came back, I got a job with Sierra Club, the environmental organization, and was working with that, got into the broader space with the Western Clean Energy Campaign, looking at coal plants across the West. But when we successfully shut down the Reed Gardner coal plant here in Clark County, it's about 45 miles from Las Vegas, right on top of the Moapa Indian Reservation. We shut that down in 2013 at the legislature. We actually passed a bill, SB 123, that set a timetable for closing that coal plant down. Then I got a call from Senator Reid's office that was saying, you want to come work for us? So that's how I got recruited.
That's good. That's a great story. That is a great story. Let me ask you this. I mentioned this before we went on air. I have gotten asked by a number of people, and I don't know, but what is the difference between you're running for Nevada Assembly District 41, you also have Nevada Senate District 41. How do the two vary? Do they do different things? Can one do more than the other or what?
So we have, in Washington, D.C., there's a Congress and a Senate.
Right.
In Nevada, we have the state assembly and the state Senate, and then our governor would serve as our executive. So the state Senate, there's actually 21 districts, and there's 42 assembly districts. So every state Senate district has 2 assembly districts nested inside of it.
Okay.
And so those are the two houses that have to pass. A bill has to pass through both sides of the legislature before it would go to the governor for signature.
Got it.
It's a little different in Nevada than it is in the federal government, whereas in the federal government, every state, regardless of population, you get 2 senators, and then you get different amount of Congress people depending on your population. So California has 50, Wyoming only has 1, right?
Yeah.
In Nevada, we've just taken the whole state and carved it up by population every 10 years of the census. So we redrew the lines in 2020. We'll do it again in 2030. And actually, if our population continues to grow, we can make a decision to add more representatives.
Okay.
And so we're stuck right now at 21 senators, 42 assembly people. That's 63 total. I can't remember the exact number, but instead of just making bigger districts with less representation, we can actually add
a
numbers.
person, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. For people that are watching that don't know, what are the boundaries of? It's a fairly big district. What are the boundaries of 41?
It is. I call it the Silverado Ranch area. The sort of northern boundary is Windmill, and it's basically like to the Silverton, right?
Okay.
The eastern boundary is Maryland Parkway. And then it goes all the way south past St. Rose to Volunteer. So Inspirata isn't in the district. It's actually the border. So Inspirata is the next district over, but it goes all the way up there. So I have Henderson Executive Airport. I have the Raiders practice facility.
Wow.
Those are in the district as well.
You're not far from me.
No, I don't think so.
From where I am. Having walked the district, and I know you have, what are the important issues that homeowners tell you about?
Well, I'm in the Democratic primary, and as you know, we don't have open primaries. So the only people that can vote on my side are registered Democrats.
Right.
And there is a Republican primary where Republicans in the district, but nonpartisans won't have the opportunity to weigh in yet. So talking to Democrat doors, the overwhelming issue that most people bring up is Trump. And it's kind of whatever he's doing that day. You know, lately it's been the Iran war. When I started, it was Epstein, you know. So that's the number one conversation. If we get past the Trump conversation, it's costs and affordability, as you would assume.
Yeah.
And even that conversation has shifted. What I've been talking about this week and last week is gas prices. Before that, we were talking more about healthcare and grocery prices. Those are the kind of other ones. What I've been saying is, with my background in energy and specifically electricity, that's a place where I really want to get some work done. Because right now in Nevada state law, the only legal solar that can be built is either on a single-family home rooftop or if a business owns its whole building. So we're doing this show out of Southwest Las Vegas. People have probably seen the IKEA. That IKEA has solar on the roof because that IKEA owns the whole building. But at your local shopping mall or your local strip mall, they're not legally allowed to put solar on the roof of that business, and because there's no way to split up that meter amongst the tenants.
Right.
The same goes for apartments. Even parking lots, which, nobody likes getting in the hot car in summer. I'd love to put some solar over these parking lots and give us some shade. We don't really have a legal mechanism to allow for the construction of solar in parking lots right now. I'd like to open all of that up for solar development. There's no reason we should be burning natural gas during the day here in Las Vegas. We should be getting all of that electricity without paying for that extra money. And I think that would go a long way towards lowering our electricity prices.
I agree. How much can you do as an assembly member as far as doing things for the district? If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
How much power do you have? Can you funnel money to it? Can you get things built?
Yeah. So we have, I can't remember if it's called Dillon's Rule or Dillon's Law, but basically our local governments only have the power that's given to them by our state legislature.
Okay.
So our state legislatures have a lot of say in what Clark County does and what the Clark County can't do. Our local legislature, or our state legislature rather, is above the school district. So we implement a lot of the rules and the laws and the funding that then the school board trustees have to decide on. In terms of directed projects, there's a little less that we can do there to make sure the money goes specifically to the district. But the funding that we do pass can go to all kinds of things that can help the district out. For example, transportation funding. If we fund transportation better, that'll create better roads, better buses for people that live in the district.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Very good point. Anyway, we're talking with, let me get this up here because you're going to see this on your door or someplace with Vinny Spotelson.
Or in your mailbox.
Or in your mailbox, yeah. So don't throw it out. Keep it on the counter so you'll remember who he is when you go vote. Now, I know you have some particular issues with certain entities here. I want to go through them quickly.
Okay.
Let's start with Nevada Power.
So NV Energy and I go way back to shutting down that coal plant. By the end, they endorsed the plan in 2013 to shut down the Reed Gardner coal plant. But before they shut that down, they were stuffing as much money as they could, spending millions in that coal plant, trying to keep it running. And their original plan, right before they switched and surrendered and waved the white flag, they wanted to keep it running until 2046. And they were spending money and making investments under that assumption. So we are still, you and I, as NV Energy, or for those of us who've been around a while, remember it as Nevada Power, as ratepayers, we're still paying off some of that money that they wasted on that coal plant. And then the next battle that we had was around rooftop solar. In the 2015 legislature, NV Energy managed to convince the state legislature and Governor Sandoval to sign a bill that effectively killed the ability for even single-family homes to put solar on their roof. We lost 5,000 solar jobs between 2015 and 2016 here in Las Vegas. So a coalition of interests came together, environmental groups, solar companies, homeowners, and folks that were around back then might remember this campaign as Bring Back Solar, if you remember that effort. And in 2017 legislature, we actually passed a bill that allowed rooftop solar to come back and included some consumer protections on the solar industry to take away some of the worst things they were doing. Another time we pushed past NV Energy. So I see another big fight happening over the rooftop solar, the time of use charge that they're trying to do right now, and over opening up more areas that we can develop solar is another place where I anticipate, because they make money with us paying high energy bills for summertime AC. That's how they make money.
Right. No, well said. How about delivering relief for Nevadans? What's one of the best ways you think we could do it? Because everybody's kind of struggling today, let's be honest. Prices are going up. Just look at gas and this and that and food, and people are looking for some relief.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, nothing rivals the federal government's power to do that. And what I'm hoping is that we have, in November, Congress and the Senate can come into play. Because I actually also worked for Congresswoman Dina Titus during the pandemic. And a big part of what I did there was help deliver the relief from the CARES Act directly to the people. And we saw how, once we passed that first stimulus bill, there were a lot of people that weren't able to get it, or people had a lot of struggles getting their unemployment. So we got to work on, an analogy I would use is like the plumbing, so that we can actually deliver that relief once it comes. At the state level, the thing I'm most concerned about is we have even more cuts coming. People are losing their food stamp benefits. People are seeing their premiums go up, or their deductibles go up, or that they're getting less coverage for their health care, that their health care isn't covering all the types of things that it used to cover. The only way that we're going to mitigate that in the short term is by injecting new revenue into the state budget. It's an unfortunate conversation because it means talking about raising taxes, but I want to make sure we're raising taxes on the people and the corporations, the industries that can afford to pay, not on regular people that are already feeling pain.
Can we do it by attracting new businesses here?
I think that's
New
part
industry?
of it. Yeah, attracting new industry is part of it. Part of it is we have a lot of industry, a lot of private equity, a lot of hedge funds do businesses, register their businesses here, and they do it to save money on taxes, and I think we can tax them more. We have a lot of land development for the ultra-rich mansions, aforementioned, that I think could afford to pay more in property taxes. In the long term, what I'd like to see for Nevada to stabilize our finance better is we probably need a couple constitutional amendments to our state constitution. One of them is that we have a balanced budget amendment. So no matter what the downtimes are, Nevada has to cut our budget. We are a state that kind of follows the national trends. And so that means that when problems happen that disrupt tourism, we experience some temporary pain.
Right.
However, that forces our government to react by immediately making huge cuts to government, which hurts people and hurts the delivery and make things worse. If we go back to the Great Depression, we know that when there are economic problems, that's when the government needs to step up, spend money to stabilize those problems.
Yeah, right.
We do the opposite in Nevada. That's why when the 2008 recession hit, we were kind of 2 years behind the rest of the country's recovery. We still have a higher unemployment rate than a lot of the country right now. What I'd like to see is, okay, maybe we change that balanced budget rule to elongate, or we allow for Nevada to do some deficit spending like 15 other states do, so that if we do have a temporary disruption or some sort of temporary problem, we don't make it worse by cutting our government. And then we can, as our tourists come back, we can actually, start to pay that off.
Yeah, because that's our lifeblood.
It is,
that, are the tourists, no doubt about it. I know that you're a Democrat, obviously. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the governor. Let's talk about Joe. Mm-hmm. Overall, what kind of job do you think he's done?
He definitely has not. I'll start by giving a little bit of credit. He has the endorsement from President Trump, but he has not pursued the same level of sort of culture war, distractions that we've seen. And so I do want to give him some credit for that. However, we saw him veto a ton of legislation that would help. There was bills that would lower grocery prices by stopping AI price fixing of groceries. We stop human collusion of prices, right? But if all of the different grocery chains are accessing the same AI, it's the same as them colluding to set higher prices in a cartel style.
Right.
We had a bill to stop that, to prevent that from happening, that the governor vetoed. There were bills on healthcare to allow and to force, the spending to be more on the burden on the insurance companies than on the providers and the patients. He vetoed that bill. There was a bill to ensure paid family leave that had bipartisan support, so that if there was a health crisis and no matter what job you had in Nevada, you could afford to leave and know that you're not going to lose your job. That was another veto. He set a record for vetoes. And, the legislature knew going in, he wasn't interested in signing, just Democratic legislation. So Democrats in the last legislative session were very careful to try to attract Republican support on almost every single bill they passed. And we still saw several vetoes there. And oftentimes these vetoes just so happened to support some of his biggest donors. For example, one of Governor Lombardo's biggest donors is Siegel Suites. The Siegel Suites actually fit, if you live in a daily or a weekly motel in town, you fall under the federal definition of homelessness.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you fall under, you actually, you can get services. It's called the McKinney-Vento Act. And there's a lot of, it's very easy to evict people in Las Vegas. There's very little protection for renters. If something breaks and your landlord doesn't fix it, there's not a lot you can do here in Nevada. There were some attempts at putting some controls on there. He vetoed all those bills as well, or those bills never even got out of the legislature. And who benefits from that? Some of his biggest donors. So there's an obvious line to draw there where I want to make sure we're holding landlords accountable, that you need to provide a actual living, a reasonable accommodations for your tenants. And we need to get people hopefully out of those daily and weekly traps where you're paying more sometimes if you add it all up than you would at a regular apartment. But you're sort of trapped there in a Siegel suite or in a budget weekly. We want to get people into more stable homes.
Yeah. I know there's a move underway now to try to make acquiring a home a lot easier, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
We certainly have enough land to build umpty-dump homes and communities and stuff. And
so let's talk about another veto. At the special session that's most famous for not giving away, $1 billion plus to Warner Brothers and Sony. The other bill that was hotly debated at the special session of the legislature this past fall was to limit corporate housing. So since the recession of 2008, 25% of all homes in the Valley have been bought by hedge funds, by private equity, or by corporations. 25%. That's thousands, tens of thousands of homes. There was a bill at the legislature that actually was going to limit, not eliminate corporations' abilities to buy homes, but limit. I think it was between 1,000 or 4,000. There was some initial number that got amended. So you'd still be able to own 4,000 homes for one corporation. That passed. That got vetoed by Lombardo as well. What happens is these companies buy up the housing. Some of them they leave empty so that there's an artificial restriction on supply.
Yeah.
Some of them they rent out for high costs. And some of them, or what this does is that what regular people, if you've been trying to buy a home here in the last handful of years, you're often outbid by cash buyers that are hedge funds or, foreign investors, something like that. With zero controls in Nevada on those people, we need to prioritize putting real people, real families in real housing here in Las Vegas. Yeah,
absolutely. Wow, that's important. Mm-hmm. That's important because renters want to be homeowners, and if you're a homeowner, you're always looking to, maybe move up, bigger home, whatever, different neighborhood and stuff. It ain't easy. It ain't easy today. And
we do need to, you mentioned building more housing, if I could talk about that for a moment. One of the things we need to do is open up, the concept's called transit-oriented development. Las Vegas is way overdue for light rail or mass transit. We are moving so many people around the Strip in cars and it's a huge, so it keeps us really dependent on oil. It creates a ton of traffic around, especially the big events at Allegiant Stadium or the Future A Stadium. So what I'd like to see us do is build, light rail and then build transit-oriented development around the light rail to have more high-rises, more condos, and more of a mixture of housing so that, we're not just talking about traditional apartments, but some multi-story, multi-bedroom types of high-rise living in a walkable neighborhood next to parks. That would be attractive for families and people to live in. And then that's in addition to the tens of thousands of acres of land we have in the valley that we could continue to build single-family homes on as well.
Yeah. Having enough land is not the problem at all.
No, it's not. I mean, there's zoning issues, which we can have an impact, start the ball rolling at the state legislature here, and then we'd need the county and the cities to pick up. Yeah. There's a lot of empty and vacant commercial spaces here in the valley, and I'd like to see those redeveloped for housing and for transit. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity. It's not just the empty land, which all of us have driven around town and seen lot after lot, but it's the underdeveloped land as well, or the redevelopable land that's another opportunity.
True. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I don't think you can have too much in the way of housing. All the people we have coming here that want to buy, people are from California, making big bucks selling their house. They want homes. They got the money to spend. Let's make it attractive enough for them to get here to buy a home, start paying taxes, start adding to the economy, and it's really good. Yeah. You mentioned you have some events coming up. Yes. You've had some events, and you got a very cool one coming up.
Oh, yeah. So I'm really excited. I've been knocking on everybody's doors. I've been calling a bunch of phone calls. And it's a process that makes, it's kind of uncomfortable because a lot of people don't like to be bothered. We see a lot of no soliciting signs. Well, yeah. And I don't mean to interrupt people's evenings and weekends. So sometimes people don't want to talk. Okay, I'll walk around. And then other times we have really good conversations with neighbors about politics. But my next big event, I'm announcing it right now, and we're going to send invites out across the district, is on Saturday, May 2nd in the afternoon. We're inviting everybody over to my house, me and my wife's home, and our two daughters. We're going to have food. We're going to have some activities for kids. We're going to have some ice cream because we anticipate it'll be a little warm that day.
That's great, yeah.
And we'll be, again, having conversations like the one you and I are having now about what type of issues. Can I tell you where I got the idea?
Absolutely.
So this is fun. So my day job right now, after I left politics, after Dean Titus's office in 2020, I had two small kids and I was working all the time, so I left politics and I became a history teacher. So I teach history right now at Valley High School. Right. And
That was my favorite subject in school, by
that's
the way.
great.
I love history.
I love, and there's something for everybody there. So I feel blessed to teach it. And I loved history before I became a teacher, so I knew that's what I wanted to teach. And I just watched this great show, Death by Lightning, on Netflix, and it's about the presidency of James Garfield, who was assassinated. He was the next. He was president a couple presidents after Lincoln. He was the second president in American history to be assassinated. And he pioneered this thing that came into fashion in the late 1800s called the Front Porch Campaign. And so instead of him barnstorming around the country, the party at the time, he was a Republican. The Republican Party actually organized different groups of voters to come to his farm in Ohio. This became an in-fashion campaigning, and it actually went on, and different presidential candidates used this tactic up until the 1920s, I think, or maybe a little before then. And one of the presidents, I think it was Benjamin Harrison, who I believe was living in Indianapolis, and as a history teacher, I'll be really embarrassed if I get this wrong. But I think it was Benjamin Harrison. He had 350,000 voters stop by his home over the course of his presidential campaign. Yeah. So
Bet you ran out of food, though.
Right. So I'm hoping we're going to be, we have donors that are really love this idea, that are going to be buying the food and,
that's
helping
great.
us feed folks. We really like that. We hope to get a lot of new voters. We hope that people that especially, I've been knocking on their doors. I hope they come to mine.
Yeah.
Get to meet me and my family, get to talk about the issues. So we'll be sending out those invites to people in the district.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That is really a good idea. Do you have any idea what you're going to be serving?
I think in that case, we're probably just going to have some pizza. We'll have some veggies or some interesting thing. But we, in terms of that many people, one of the things me and my wife were talking about was like, should we grill? And she pointed out, then all we'd be doing is grilling the whole time instead of talking to voters.
Absolutely. You got to talk to the voters.
So we'll try to have a couple healthy options, but I'm thinking we'll just be ordering.
Pizza's a great idea.
Yeah, a ton of pizza. There's an ice cream truck that drives around the district that we've gotten to know. They'll come by. And, the other option is if it's not pizza, there's some local Mexican restaurants in the district. And we're actually calling through them to see if any of them
would help out.
Yeah, would like maybe cook some tacos live or something like that. Would be a little more fun.
I just may show up.
Yeah, please do. Please
do.
do.
That would be. And as I keep mentioning on the show, everybody who runs for office puts in a lot of effort, a lot of time, sincerity, but they need money. Mm-hmm. Always helps. And how could people help you if they want to?
Well, thank you for bringing that up because, I think we have way too much corporate power in Nevada right now. And wealth and money have way too much influence in our politics. And
true.
It's dividing us left and right, but I think there's that Senate candidate from Texas that had a great quote of we should be looking up and down, And so I'm not taking any corporate contributions for my campaign. I depend on regular people, small dollar donors. I get a lot of $50, $100 donations. I get some donations $5, and some friends that are more wealthy, they donated more money. So I really depend on regular people donating money.
Adds up.
winwithvin.org/donate.
You see the signs all over town. Win with Vin.
Yeah.
Win with Vin. Yeah.
So winwithvin.org/donate is how you can access my donation. You can also mail checks. The other cool thing is we're using Zelle on the campaign, so people can Zelle my email, Vinny@winwithvin.org is how you can Zelle.
Yeah.
And we'll have some more fundraisers coming up later in May as well. I'll make sure to get those out.
Yeah. People like going to them. They like meeting the candidates.
Mm-hmm.
They like schmoozing with the other voters and exchanging ideas. And yeah. What is the number one thing you would do? You're in office, and they come up to you and they go, Vinny, we're giving you a chance to get one thing done, like now. What's the number one thing you would do?
In the short term, the healthcare crisis that we are going to deal with.
Okay.
So Trump's budget, the BBB, the big, beautiful bill, Congresswoman Susie Lee calls it something else that I don't think we could say here. But that bill cut the money that the federal government gives to states to use for Medicaid, Medicare programs like that.
Right.
So that means that those cuts are coming. If we don't fund that here at the state level, people here in Nevada are going to feel that in their pocketbooks. And what we've seen is that when people don't have health insurance, it can be lethal.
Ooh,
people
yeah.
die if they don't have access to care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if there's any one thing that I would do, would be to stabilize healthcare or even expand and get more people better healthcare. That'd be number one. In the medium or long term, climate change is such a threat to Las Vegas that whatever we can do to keep water in that lake, it's going to be critical to keeping our community going.
For sure. Well, Trump's coming here this week. Talk about no tax on tips and some other stuff. Got to grab them and get them in the corner.
Yeah.
Mr. President, listen. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I imagine there'll be a lot of protest. We'll see if Governor Lombardo campaigns with him, or will other Republicans. It'll be really interesting. Are people going to want to touch it? A lot of folks, including our Democratic representatives, supported the no tax on tips. I can't speak to much specificity about if it really was implemented the way we'd really like. It's a smart move by him to talk about that, but I imagine that next week we'll still be thinking about the Iran war. We'll still be thinking about the Epstein files. We'll still be thinking about prices going up. So we'll see.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, now look for these in your mailbox. If you don't hear a knock on the door, and remember who he is, what he stands for. Like I say, you've got to vet everybody. You agree, you don't agree, and you make a decision, but you got to get out and you got to mark that ballot. That's the important. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. This was a great time. I really appreciate the questions and your concern for the community. And
it was great.
Making time for me.
Anything we could do to help you, just don't hesitate. Give me a holler.
Will do. But I really just want people to visit winwithvin.org. Hope that they remember that. Be on the lookout if you live in the area. Come over to my house on May 2nd. And then
I'll let you know how the food is, folks.
And then I hope to get everybody's vote in the primary. All the Democrats vote in the primary, and then everybody's vote in the general this fall.
In the general, yeah. And it's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah.
It's going to be here before you know it. But anyway, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
And we will see you again, no doubt about it. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Pick Your Politics. And we thank you for staying with us, supporting the show. And we'll be back with another candidate very soon. So make sure you catch us then. So for Vinny and I, so long, everybody.
Thank you.
Are you a local leader with a message for the community? We want to hear from you. Our podcast is inviting local politicians and public officials to join us for real conversations about the issues that matter most to our community. Share your vision, explain your policies, and connect directly with the people you represent. If you're currently serving, running for office, or involved in shaping local policy, we'd love to have you on the show. Reach out today to schedule an episode and be part of the conversation. Contact me by text at 702-712-3224.